Okay, so we have gotten our whole little storyline of him walking. We're now getting ready to edit this little clip area, okay? We're talking about, this is at 105 to 108. So we're talking about 3 seconds, okay, of where we just need to have kind of craziness going on. So we want to kind of tell a story of what he's initially looking at to find out, why he had that reaction, why he was getting kind of quiet. Let's see what that is and start building those pieces. Okay, there are a number of things that we could do as we're looking at this. First off, before we jump in there, I do think that night sky is a little bit too bright. So I'm going to come in here and I want to select the color for this. So I'm just on the night sky part. I can pull down the color. So I want it to not be so bright. That is not pulling it at all. That looks much better. Okay, let's just double check. And doing that, now we are going to end up having to have that transition. So let's go to the start, go 1 frame. That's where the moon should be. So if I'm going to have it over on the side, then I'm going to need to actually move it over. So I'm going to select the moon, move the moon over. So this is where I want it. Let's keyframe that in. Also, we can change how we're doing our keyframe. So this is where it's starting and it's going at constant speed. I want to do where we're going to have it here. We want it to ease in. Ease in means it's going to slow down here, but it's going to start fast. Okay, I'm okay with that. That looks good. All right, so now we want to actually start adding on here. I'm not using Lumetri right now. We're going to go back, reset our workspace to editing. Okay, this gives us more room. So now here we're putting all of this. So we're going to add some layers. I'm going to add tracks, and I want to add them after video 3. Let's say that I want to add 10 tracks because we're going to put that adjustment layer all the way on the top. Okay, so now we just spaced out. We have a whole bunch of tracks right there. Okay, and then our adjustment layer is the very top. So right here is where I'm going to start putting all of that stuff. So let's go here and start looking at our assets. Now I have a number of different ones that we could do. I think once we end up having some type of stuff. So let's get some zombies in there. Now what we're going to end up losing here is that transition. It's going to be hard to keyframe those in, but we can do our best. We can say where that movement stops. That's where I'm going to initially start the zombies. Wide, standing away from camera. I'm going to go ahead and bring this in. All right, now I'm green screening this in. So this means I'm going to Alt key. I need to go to, Effects, Alt key. I'm going to pull it in. And I can either drag it here or I can drag it onto the clip itself. That would be this one. Okay. Now I can select the color, and I'm going to make him much smaller. Okay, now he's farther away, which means if I'm looking, this is not in as much detail, and this is. So if I want to blend it a little bit better, I'm going to need to add a little bit of Gaussian blur. If you have stuff, moving really fast, you can change this around, but Gaussian blur is pretty good. So we're going to just add just a little bit of blur. If we add too much, it looks dumb, but we don't need them to be in complete focus. So that's not too bad. Now the color is not right. We want to actually match that color up. And I want to get some more of that movement, so I'm going to just pull this in. Okay. Let's pull that off. There's my clip. I'm going to color these, but chances are I'm going to end up having to color them all the same way. So I'm going to apply, we got the Ultra Cree, we've got the Gaussian blur, we're going to do the Lumetri color, and that's going to be right before the Gaussian blur. And then I can copy those settings and apply them to all the other ones. So here we go. Let's pull this in. Now, if I change my window to color, I can just edit here. Now we are more in the blue, so I'm going to pull, desaturate some, turn them a little bit darker, contrast up. Already blends him a lot better. So I don't know what's going on with him, but he's like, what's going on? All right, so now we got him. Let's go ahead and add another one. We're going to kind of do the same thing. Let's look for, let's see, we got zombie wide standing away from camera, wide standing towards camera. We're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to select this. Well, I can actually select everything. I can copy, and then I can click on an actual one right here. So if I right click and I click paste, we can actually paste all of the attributes. So here, paste. See, it pasted the Ultra key because that's the one that we had copied. Now if I click here instead, so let me undo, so Control Z, we click on this original footage right here, we right click, and I can click copy, then I go here and I click paste. I can paste attributes, so I'm actually selecting the entire footage, and then I can choose what I want. Motion, because I did scale it down. Opacity, that didn't really change right now, but I have all of these. I do want to apply the Ultra key, so I'm applying everything that I just did. So now I have the other person right there, and now I can just move him to the side. So there we go. We now have two shots. Now, if I want to make it so that I'm skipping back and forth here, then I need to have these channels. Okay, so let's go ahead and add another one. Walking towards camera, I'm going to, again, bring it here. Let's right click, paste attributes. We are moving all of that stuff. So now that it is there, now we can put it in a different position, maybe scale it up just a bit. Drag this down. So there are my clips. I'm just going to keep going up. I'm going to add another one. Wide standing away from camera. Again, we're going to just bring them in. Okay, now this one I actually want them to walk the other way. So what do? I can go to Effects and I can click Flip. Look, we got horizontal flip and vertical flip. So I can drag horizontal flip, and now that person is walking the opposite way. Okay, now all of these are getting trimmed down to the end right there. Well, we got a couple mid-reaching ones. Let's look at that one. This one's much closer up. So we're going to bring that one in. This one's going to be like where it's coming out of the ground. So again, right click, paste attributes, controls. So I got to get them small, but I'm going to bring them up. So now I have a number of these. I am going to actually add a whole bunch more tracks. So I'm going to go to Add Tracks, and we're going to do after V12. And let's add. We had like eight things. Let's add those. Now I'm going to focus on this. That means I'm going to touch the key that's above the tab key to the left of the 1 key when I have it selected, and it's open this whole thing up. Now I'm looking at all of this footage right here. We've just created and blended all of those. I can select all of these. Now that I have them selected, if I hold, now see it, if I'm holding this, it says drag without command to lift, drag from track to extract. So if I'm holding command and I'm dragging up, I've moved that footage, which is not what I want to do. Now if I'm holding, I believe it's Alt on your guys's, we can duplicate. So now there's 2 duplicate pieces. So if I want to make copies of these, move them around, flip some of them, I'm going to drag them up. I'm going to build a zombie horde. Okay, so now I did that. I'm going to come back here. Now they're all directly on top of each other, so I'm going to start going to each one and moving the position. So there's one. Let's make them smaller. Change the Y position. And then I want to actually time it off a little bit. So this is where, because we've adjusted the start and the end, this is where the slip tool comes in, because I can slip to have different start and end points. So now when we're looking, they're not in the same spot. So I'm going to do that for each one. Use the selection tool, move that person. So there they are. I'm going to move over here, and I think I'm going to also flip. So I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to do a horizontal flip for that person, flip them, and then I'm going to use the slip tool to adjust so they're not in sync. Okay. Okay, so we did that one. We're going to do this one. And see these little arrows right here on there? That lets us know that we're at the very end here. We're at the very start of the clip. So if we were using the slip tool, we know that we can't move from the left to the right to pull any from, because we're at the far end of the left tail. But I can drag and move the start farther in. So we're just going to keep moving around. Let's get this person. Let's get them maybe over here, some position. And if I want them to be behind different ones, I got to change the order that I see them. Okay. Again, here I might add another flip. And then I'm going to use the slip tool. I'm just going to drag some. Okay. Continuing on. Here we go. Let's move. I'm going to want to have that one, but I want that one in behind. So let's move it down. But still not move down for that. That gives me room to put this one. Now she's behind. But that also means that now I gotta move this person. So we gotta make them smaller. Finishing this off and really blending this, we have this movement right here when we're transitioning that we're not going to end up seeing those things. So we're going to nest this footage and then keyframe this whole little piece, which would be the easier way to do this. So I'll walk through that. But really quick, the other stuff that you guys would do is you guys would go into the assets that we have. So here we have the VFX stuff, and you guys can go into dust and fog and pull any of these for getting some good looking fog on there. That's not one that I wanted. Smoke, that's another one that you guys could do. If you guys wanted to add lightning in there, you guys could use lightning, and then you guys can add lightning sound effects in there. And all of that just helps to build and blend. So you want to look for something that might be like a ground fog, slow moving. And again, if it's white, you're going to end up doing screen. If it's black, you're going to end up doing multiply, or it's vice versa. You're just going to play around with them to find out what you like. Okay, so we want to end up blending that, but now let's look at, we have that little bit of movement right there that we're going to need to get. So I'm going to maximize this piece of footage right here. We're going to get every single clip. So all of these, that's all going to be keyframed together to move a little bit. So we want that to keyframe and kind of fade in. So I'm going to select everything, right click, and then I can do nest. Okay, nest means, let's do zombie horde. Now that is one clip. I can double click and I go inside of the zombie horde and I can look at where everything is. So there is those clips. They're all there, and that is what I have selected right there. Now this is my normal sequence. That's what's going to be playing in there. So I can actually take this and I could scale this up, and I'm scaling the whole thing. Okay. So what I can do here when we come from this movement, we want those to start getting revealed. We can change the rate stretch. So let's click here. We're going to do rate stretch. We'll just stretch it just to that piece right there. Now that's where it's moving, so this is where I would want to keyframe my position and then move it over. So we already know that we like. Okay, so if I'm looking at that tree, that's where my first zombie is. I'm going to go back a couple frames. And let's move my X a couple frames. So we're going to keyframe this in, and then we're going to add some Gaussian blur on this whole thing and keyframe that in. So that'll give us like motion blur. Okay, so we now want to, right on top of here, we're going to add a Gaussian blur. So I'm going to go to effects. Now I'm adding it to everything, to all of those zombies. And this is going to be keyframed. Okay, where see there's the blurriness. I want it to be, and I'm going to switch this to just horizontal because we are moving side to side. Find where we stopped moving. That's where we're going to go to 0. And then I want to, when we're doing this, we are easing in on here. So we're going fast and then we're easing in. So it should be slowing down. All right, so you would add the zombie. We got the zombies. You're going to add some fog. You guys are going to add some of the SWAT. The velociraptors have a really crazy thing going. And all of that should be working with playing around with different effects. Horizontal flip, using different blurs. Gaussian blur you can use for almost anything. Playing around with the opacity on the blend modes. Using green screen. Changing the position and scale and keyframing those to make it more believable. And then when we're all done, that's where we would start adding our soundscape stuff. So we'll play around with another video of adding the soundscape. Remember, we're going to have to do different short footfalls of each time his foot's falling. We're going to have to add that, birds, rustling of leaves. Then we've got to have zombie sounds and, you know, different creepy sounds. That's what we're going to be adding to this. All right. Good luck. Have fun.